Hello and welcome to another Bodgit and Leggit video. Yes, this is going to be a video on anti-lag. I've done a previous video on a GoFundMe project and a big thank you to everybody that's helped me already. But I've been asked basically, what is anti-lag? What's it do? How's it work? And yeah, so I'm going to quickly run through. It's going to be a very basic setup of it, but it's going to give you an idea of what anti-lag does. Essentially, anti-lag, if you have a turbo car, you will realize when you hit a certain rev in your car, you get boost. So you kind of depend on your car, you kind of feel the power come in. The bigger turbos, the more boost you get, the more kick you get. It's as simple as that. The bigger turbos tend to come in at a higher rev range. The bigger exhaust valves on the turbo, you get more power, but unfortunately it could come in at 3,500, 4,000 revs. It could come in at 1,500 revs. It just depends on your turbo setup. So what anti-lag does is anti-lag stops all the lag. So your turbo is constantly spooling, so it's constantly spinning. So as soon as you put your foot down, you've got instant power. So whether when you're starting off or when you're changing down gear, coming into a corner, when you put your foot back on the throttle, you've got instant power. Now there's obviously downsides to this. You do need a special turbo. If you run anti-lag on a standard turbo, you'll blow it to bits very quickly. You can't run anti-lag on a standard manifold because you'll just blow a hole in it. So you do kind of need to upgrade certain things to make it work more efficient. Well, not even so much efficient, just make it work without blowing everything up. Even with the special turbos and the special everything, you're still gonna basically wear the life of your turbo out, and they don't last as long. Now essentially we have two different setups here. We have a bypass valve and a delayed ignition system. Now the system, if we get it on mine, is going to be a mixture of both, but I'm going to run through on how they work. We'll go through the delay timing first. It's very simple. You have your engine running like it normally does. When you let off the throttle, your turbo spools down, and you put your foot back on the throttle, and eventually your turbo spools back up. What the delayed system does is it basically delays the spark. So rather than your spark hitting at top dead center, it waits for it to go down and then it ignites. And what that essentially does is that then pushes more air, kind of exploding air into your turbo, which constantly makes it spool up as you're slowing down. The downside to it is you do lose a few things. For example, if you're coming into a corner and you change down gear, the engine will kind of run on because the turbo's constantly spinning. So as regards braking, it's as if you're braking with your foot on the throttle. So the car still wants to go forward, but you're trying to slow it down. That's kind of the downside to anti-lag. But the best thing about anti-lag is this. You just can't get enough of that noise. I mean, that is just fantastic. That is the reason I'm doing it. I don't need it for anything else, just because of that. I mean, why wouldn't you do it because of that? It just makes sense, doesn't it? So that's essentially delayed ignition. Now, it basically, like I said, pushes everything up into your turbo, so you spark. So you basically get like a little mini engine inside your manifolds. In other words, the fuel in the air is sparking, which is causing the air to spin your turbo around. So you essentially, you could say, getting a little mini engine inside your manifold. Now, but that is all to do with your chips. You need chips, you need ECUs that take all that, and it's all clever to do with your car. So it knows when you're slowing down, it knows to do this, to flick everything on, and it'll work for you. Now, I'm having mine on a switch because you don't want this all the time. You don't want this banging and spluttering at traffic lights for obvious reasons. So I'm going to have mine on a switch where I can turn it on and off as I need to. Now, the other system is a bypass valve. So essentially it's the same. Except with this system, you need extra bits. So you need, rather than just coming into your intercooler, rather than just coming from your intercooler to your throttle, on that pipe, you need some sort of extension. So you need a bypass valve. So in other words, as you start slowing down, rather than the wasted air going nowhere, the air then comes into this bypass valve, essentially goes up through the tube, through whatever you're using, back into your manifold, which also then causes the turbo to spool up. So that's essentially how this works. It just has a little valve, but like I said, the downside to this is you need a lot more parts. So you need some sort of pipe going to your manifold. You need a bypass valve. Now, the one I'm going to be using is a Bosch rotary valve. That's the one I'm going to be using for my setup. Depending on your setup, depending on your car, you can have different things or use different things. So I'm going to need to get for my throttle, I'm going to need an extra opening, you could say. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do this yet. I'm going to have to wait till I get everything and do a few things. Now, I'm lucky in the sense of my manifold. If you remember, my manifold has an extra hole for an external wastegate. Now, I don't need an external wastegate. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use that extra hole as my pipe for my bypass valve. Now, if you haven't got one of them, you can basically cut a hole in your manifold, weld a new pipe or connection, however you want to do it. But you need some sort of connection inside your manifold. But lucky enough, so this is my manifold here, and as you can see on the side of it here is for the external wastegate. I'm going to use that as my inlet. So I'm lucky in that sense, that's what I'm going to use. And basically I'm going to connect this pipe to it, which is then connected to the bypass valve. Now, I'm not 100% sure yet what I'm going to do with my idle valve speed. I've got an idle valve speed controller here, which every car has. I don't know at the minute if I can use it along with this. If I was just using the delayed ignition timing, I wouldn't need any of this, and I can just basically flick it on, but I don't think that's going to give me enough. It depends how severe you want your anti-lag to. I'm not using it for rallying or anything like that, so there's a possibility I might just get away enough with this, but for me, it's not a big deal just getting a few extra little bits just to have that. Not sure yet exactly how I'm going to do it. It's going to be a mixture of these, but that really is essentially how anti-lag works. It really isn't anything to it apart from you're just getting air from your engine into your turbo to keep your turbo spinning. Essentially, that's all it is. If you had a little compressor and you were shooting air into turbo, you'd see it spinning. But that's what you're doing. You're constantly seeing the turbo jets spin. But I mean, obviously, they're spinning ridiculously fast. And the upside to it is, again, it's this. What's that noise? I mean, what more do you want? So, yes, that's what anti-lag is. These are a couple of different ways of doing it. If we do get to do it, I will be obviously showing full videos on how I set it up, what it sounds like, what it does, and all that sort of stuff. But if you are thinking about doing this, make sure you have the right turbos and manifolds, because if you was to put this on a normal turbo and a manifold, well, you're going to blow your turbo to smithereens and mostly blow your manifold in half. That's kind of unfortunately. So you do need the proper turbos. Proper turbos are not cheap. I have the marine shaft in my turbo, which is the anti-lag one, which is designed for it. But like I said, even that one, you know, you will have to, it will still break, but obviously it takes a lot more hammer. Now, what I'm doing with it, I should maybe never need to do it again, because I'm not going to be using it every day of the week. I'm not going to be using it every single time. I'm just going to be using it to show off, basically. That's really it. So I might be okay as regards that, but as regards rallying terms or anything like that, every couple of rallies you would be reconditioning your turbos just to make sure they're fine. So that's really it. These are two different ways of doing it. Hopefully I've explained. It's very, very simple. It's just essentially getting air from your engine that you're not using to keep your turbo spinning. So when you put your foot down coming out of a corner or doing whatever you happen to be doing, the car is going to have boost. So you're going to be full power straight away. Now, when I was editing this, I did forget to do one thing. So I'm going to kind of put this in the middle somewhere, or maybe towards the end. There is a kind of another way of doing it. I'm not sure which way I'm going to do, but essentially you can have, as we've got one pipe here, we can have another pipe also coming off here straight into our inlet here, and then we can put solenoids here, and we can basically have them on a switch, so on and off. Or what I'm thinking of is maybe having some sort of controller where we can open them more than others. So basically, if these are a 12-volt solenoid, we could maybe get some sort of, I'm not sure yet how I do it, but maybe something just to turn them up to 2 volts, 5 volts, 6 volts, 8 volts, whatever it is, so they can open or close more, because the more they open, the more severe the anti-lag will be, or the you know, we can kind of control it a bit better. So I'm not too sure which way I'm going to go, but you're going to get the idea of a few different ways of doing it. I'm not sure exactly which way I'm going to go yet, but if we do hit the target, we will see. But that hopefully just gives you kind of another idea and another thing that I forgot to mention. So that really is essentially it. So look, hope it helps. Thumbs up and subscribe. Don't forget, check out our shop, our forum. If you haven't signed up to our forum, please do. Any questions, just ask. And please, please, please keep helping us on the GoFundMe for the anti-lag project. And we can get these videos up and we can get some anti-lag going in. Just one more time, let's hear that sound. Ah, what more can I say? No need to say any more. Don't forget, get your hands dirty.